What's the juiciest rumor at your school that turned out to be 100% true? The art teacher was sleeping with both the history teacher and the RE teacher. She was married to the chemistry teacher who she'd previously had an affair with while married to the woodworking teacher. I believe she married the RE teacher sometime after I left school. A few people have asked what RE is. Religious education, which state schools in the UK used to have to teach. Taught by an atheist, which was refreshing. That there is an underground bunker from the Cold War era below the school. Not only is it there, but it turns out you can access it from the PE changing room through a secret trap door. It's in Krakow, Poland, because so many of you were curious. And it looks like there's actually lots of schools that have one. Also, it is confirmed to be a bunker, but it was built before the school existed and was most likely emptied by previous owners of the building. We had a running joke around my school for years. If someone asked, "Could you insert question here?" most people would reply, "I'll do it for a bag of Doritos." This was a school-wide inside joke because a girl was caught sucking this guy's dick in the bathroom. Some authority figure had the bright idea of asking why the horny teen would allow this. He said, "She said she would do it for $3 in a bag of Doritos." No one ever saw the girl again, but the guy became a legend. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly, but always place the girls in the front of the classroom. Did the whole lingering stare thing and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did, but he was married and has a baby, so no one really suspected him of anything other than being creepy. Fast forward about 7 years. The teacher ended up being a sex offender. He had an ongoing relationship with a girl that began when she was 13. Based on what I could see from the various news articles, she was either in my year or the year before me. The police came to arrest him in the middle of his class, cuffed him in front of his students, and then had him walk throughout the campus in cuffs to get to their car. I don't feel bad for him at all, but I can't imagine how his wife and son must feel. For everyone asking, this was in the Bay Area, California. A girl got caught giving her boyfriend a blowjob in one of the stairwells of my high school. The government teacher, one of the most ultra-religious and pure-hearted individuals on earth, was the one who caught them. Ended up in a science class with the girl. She gave no fuck she got caught, and took her legend status like a champ. Still makes me laugh over a decade later. The cheerleading team was doing coke off of the toilet seats. Edit. For everyone saying the tank would be better, maybe my high school was unusual, but we had the same high-power flush toilets like other public bathrooms. They had no tanks. Just the base of the toilet and the seat. Our bathrooms had no doors to the entrance, probably as a deterrent to this behavior, so the counters were a no-go. The toilet paper dispensers were those large circular ones. Believe me, I agree with those of you saying it's gross and idiotic, but there weren't that many alternatives in the bathroom. We weren't allowed to have bags or backpacks with us, so no one carried a purse. And they did it in the middle of class, so bringing a textbook would be suspect. Also, the main offenders were too young to drive, so they didn't have keys necessarily, and this was pre-smartphone and before the average high school student even had a cell phone. Edit 2. Real glad the cheerleaders' collective idiocy led to my highest rated comment. That the school district security guard would let you get away with anything if you gave him some coke. He later got caught and fired for it. If anyone else went there, it was at Desert View High School in Tucson. Edit. I was talking about cocaine, not the soda for those who didn't realize that. And on a serious note, it's all about the Dr. Pepper and fuck the rest. Resource officer was a child molester and then murdered his wife after he was fired. He fled and they still haven't found him over 10 years later. He's on Marshall's top 15 most wanted list. His name was Dan Heers and his mother thinks he's dead. The computer tech teacher got caught having sex with a student. He was put on suspension while the investigation was conducted. He killed himself by running his car into a tree. There was a rumor that our female English teacher was sleeping with the starting quarterback, and that her youngest child was not her husband's, but the quarterback's. She was caught sleeping with a different one of her students years later, and it is now known she has slept with a number of former students, including the quarterback. Now people really think her youngest kid isn't her husband's. QB equals quarterback. Sorry to my non-Americans on the thread. This is by far the most attention that a post of mine has received, and I love that it turned into a Blue Mountain State thread. Go Goats! Probably not the juiciest thing, but the one I remember because of how I found out. A few of our high school library's walls were weird. Sort of a lowercase b shape, so there was this empty space behind the bookshelves up against the walls. Tunnels, basically. Word was, students were fucking in there. I worked in the library, had to move the shelves, clean the tunnels, found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind, the condoms weren't the worst thing, really. The leftover food debris in there was worse. Stuff like chicken bones. Edit. Couple years later, I was talking with an ex-schoolmate. Another guy from our graduating class comes in. I hate that guy, my friend says. He's fucking gay. Dude, you're gay. There's gay, and there's so fucking gay other gay people think you're too fucking gay. Turns out that the gent had been one of the entrepreneurial fellows selling services for a few dollars ago. I wasn't shocked since I already had some idea, but I was surprised that the going rate had been so cheap. Our math teacher in high school had a student teacher she was helping train to take over for her when she went on maternity leave. The student teacher was maybe 20 or 21 and a fairly attractive young woman, so naturally all the guys in the class had a crush on her. One guy in particular was a super senior and 18 or 19. He flirted with her non-stop and she would act super embarrassed and blush and in a non-committal way tell him to knock it off. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Well, towards the end of the semester, he was bragging about going on a date with her and how they went to the movies, then he went back to her place and they had sex. We all thought he was full of shit, but the rumor got around the school and of course the teachers and faculty found out. Then one day she was just gone. And we had substitute teachers for the rest of the semester. We all knew what happened. Looking back, it's kind of a shame that she probably wrecked her future teaching career for him. We had two girls in our class that played a game to seduce a teacher. They did the usual, staying after class to get him alone, wore inappropriate clothes that showed too much skin, touched him a lot, sat in his lap, laughed obnoxiously at any joke he made, etc. Girl A told Girl B she was tired of playing the game after about a month, so she wanted to stop, and they seemingly did. But Girl A was actually sleeping with the guy since like the second week. Girl A told Girl B about the situation, and not knowing what to do, Girl B told her mom. When the time came around for the teacher to be confronted, Girl A killed herself so that the teacher wouldn't be charged. The mother felt so bad that she didn't tell the school what was going on the minute she found out, so she felt responsible for the girl's death. The teacher was removed directly after the full story came out. He ended up running off, so he was never formally charged. New kid comes to high school, has a funny accent because his parents were missionaries, traveling all over the world. He was actually kinda cool. Spoke at least 4 different languages, English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. He was super polite and everyone liked him. Of course he had haters, mainly the so-called bullies, a concept he never understood. Rumor began that he was well-versed in many forms of martial arts. He never denied or admitted to them. Well, one of the bullies decided to find out. He was much bigger than the new kid. New kid did everything in his power to not escalate the fight, even took a punch from said bully. Well, guess the rumor was true. Not only did the new kid beat his ass, the bully shit himself. Most awesome thing I ever saw in high school. Edit. Unfortunately, I was never really close to him, but I had heard from another friend of mine that he ended up moving after high school. Nobody seems to know anything else. I barely remember his first name. It was not an easy one, let alone his last name. So he will live on in memory as that one foreign kid that nobody messed with. So, at my school, the drama teacher worked closely with one history teacher who did all the tech stuff for plays, sound, lights, etc. They spent a lot of time together, and both of them were married. The tech kids, my friends and I, always joked about them having an affair, and it turned into a school-wide rumor. We never really thought much about it, and that was 8th grade. My friends and I went on to high school and forgot about it for 3 years, until a few months ago when we saw the history teacher at a football game. We went to ask him how he was doing, and the fucking drama teacher comes over and grabs his hand. We awkwardly said, "Oh, that was true, huh?" He replied with, "Yeah, we've been going out for 2 years." We ended the conversation after that. So the rumor wasn't true when it first started, but ended up being true. TLDR, 2 teachers spent a lot of time together. We joked about them having an affair, forgot about it. 3 years later, we learned we called it before it came true. I was an outcast at my high school and was shunned by the majority of the school. Because of this, my circle of friends included the outcast from my school and the outcast from several other schools in my city. Myself and my friend Sarah from my school were good friends with a very gay guy from another school named Raphael. We were also friends with this very punk girl from the same school as Raphael named Stephanie. Stephanie was really hot and always dressed in a very outwardly sexual way, fishnets, school uniform, thigh-high boots, etc. The jocks at our school thought we, Sarah and I, were freaks and shunned us until they saw us hanging out with Stephanie. Then every one of them wanted to have her phone number and we were popular. Stephanie made the rounds of pretty much the entire football and baseball teams at my high school and was known as a head queen. Everyone wanted to go on a date with her and most did. Stephanie and Raphael are the same person. That a girl brought her mom's vibrator into school for whatever reason possessed her. Teachers found out, it was confiscated, and her poor mom had to come and collect it. Edit. Well, since this is actually being seen, unlike most of my Ask Reddit answers when I turn up too late, I've got a bonus story or two. First one, we had a math teacher I would estimate to be late 40s, early 50s. Rumors were going around he was fucking a 6th form student, but obviously were brushed off to begin with. He ended up losing his job, leaving his wife and 2 children, and moving in with her at her parents' house. It also became evident it had started before she was 18, which was dodgy as fuck. Last I knew, they were getting married, and he works at PC World. Now I can't remember what my other one was. I'll edit it in if I remember. Probably looks like I'm making them up now, but whatever. The music teacher in my high school was rumored to have been fired for sending dick pics to a female student. There had been subs taking his place for nearly a month. The principal said he was too ill to come into work, and eventually another rumor that he had cancer started spreading around. He had been bald longer than anyone could remember. If you asked any of the school staff what was going on, they would just say, he's sick right now. We don't know when he'll be returning. One day in my physics class, everyone in the class pestered the teacher for the whole period until he finally gave in. Some people were still trying to argue the cancer story. One student asked the physics teacher, "Did he send nudes to that girl?" And he finally said, "That thing you think happened? It happened." The student said, "So he did?" And the teacher simply nodded his head yes. A month or so later, the music teacher showed up in school. Everyone was running up to him in the hallway asking what happened. He dodged every question, and the last thing I heard him say was, "I'm just here to get some things." He didn't teach his class that day, and I never saw him again. Juiciest? Christ, I don't know. Here's some random ones, though. Some dude kept jerking off in the bathroom stalls. No big deal. Problem is, he'd finish by coating the toilet dispenser with his handmade batter. A rule got put in place that specifically disallowed people from bringing food into the bathrooms. People kept making hot dog boats and clogging up the toilets with them. Principal and VP were banging in the office. Soccer coach was banging athletes. I'm fairly certain I have seen a couple of students discreetly banging in the cafeteria. One of my best friends fell on a rocking chair, the pointy bit that lets it rock back and forth. It went up his butt. He was in the hospital for a while. And I'll leave the probably best for last. Spatula girl. She was a bit of an attention whore, even going out of her way to fake fainting spells. One day, she decided to masturbate with the handle of a spatula, record it, and send it out to every dude she had the number to. Cops got involved, and a couple of those dudes went to juvie for possession of child pornography. As far as I know, action was not taken against her. Later in the year, the school's rival had a glow stick girl who, you guessed it, did the same thing with glow sticks. Last football game of the season, the rival school showed up with a bunch of spatulas, and my school showed up with a bunch of glow sticks. High school is weird. This is also not even everything that happened, just most of the sexual type stuff. There was a video of a girl in my year fingering herself for a pack of cigarettes. The rumor went around for about a week before everyone in my year had it on their phone. I want to say this was 9 to 10 years ago. The school ended up having assemblies about it and said that if anyone was caught with it on their phones, they'd press charges for child pornography. We were 14 or 15 at the time. I think a couple of kids actually did get charged for it, though I think it got sealed once they turned 18. The poor girl in the video ended up changing schools more than once because the kids at the first school she changed to ended up getting hold of the video, and it went around that school too. The wood tech teacher was married to the French teacher. They had a child. The PE teacher fucked the French teacher. The wood tech teacher went into the PE department and threatened to beat the shit out of the PE teacher with a cricket bat. I believe this was during a normal school day, but it was before my year started there. A second PE teacher got involved and stopped it, so everyone kept their jobs. Later on, the wood tech teacher married the geography teacher, and they had 2 kids, while a third PE teacher cheated on her husband with the second PE teacher, and every Wednesday, an hour before lunch, I would see PE teachers 2 and 3 through the window of my science classroom. They would get in a car and leave together. Sometimes I would see them come back, and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on, and later they became a couple that was known to students. TLDR, 6 teachers, 3 pregnancies, 2 affairs, 1 angry husband with a cricket bat. This will probably get buried, but it was a legendary rumor that I never really believed. When I was a junior, the principal's daughter was a freshman. The principal had 3 daughters, but she was the oldest and first to hit high school. It was a small town, there was only 1 high school, and the principal happened to be the most successful basketball coach in school history. And in this town, that was important. The guy could do no wrong. So the girl, by default, had a lot more attention than any other normal freshman girl. She was outgoing and nice, and we were involved in athletics together, so we knew each other, other than me just knowing who she was like most of the rest of the school. The rumor was that this girl, the principal's daughter, made a sex tape with a popular boy in her grade when they were 13. Apparently, the parents found the VHS tape and a few copies, and both families decided to destroy the tapes and leave the cops out of it, as it was a small town and both families were prominent in the community. This was all rumored, and if you asked the boy about it, he never answered the question. He never said yes or no, just found some sort of way to change the topic. In hindsight, it was actually amazing how good he was at it, given that he was 14 at the time. Fast forward to senior year. I had known of the story for more than a year, like everyone else, and I regularly talked to the principal's daughter as a friend, and she didn't really seem like the type of person to do that, so I didn't really believe it. One day after lunch, sitting around talking, one of my friends starts playfully arguing with her about something, and the argument escalated. And then he says, "At least I didn't make a sex tape when I was 12. Her response? "Hey, I was 13. Everyone thought the cheer coach was pregnant. She left soon and denied it. I don't know how long later it comes to light she was, but it gets weird. This is her story. She didn't know she was pregnant, had a stillborn baby in her house. This caused her to have a mental breakdown. She tore arms and legs off the baby, then put the body in a tire in her yard and burned it. Cops and firemen get called for a fire in town due to how badly the body was burned. They were unable to prove if the baby had taken any breaths or if it was born dead as she claimed. Everyone thought she was pregnant, but sadly, we were all right. I think social services took her kids. She had kids before this one, and she moved out of town. That one girl started a gonorrhea outbreak. It was only a super big deal because my high school had around 500 students and everyone knew everyone. Huge rumors like that never happened because the school was so small. In all of the high school's history from 1800 whatever, there's never been a girl who got pregnant. But everyone eventually traced it back to the source just by having the inside knowledge of who was fucking who. It did end up being her. She gave it to several guys who gave it to other people, etc., etc. I'm pretty sure she transferred soon after. Probably late to the party, but I have two stories. One teacher randomly picked students, Reed, pretty girls, to see him after class, to talk about how the lessons went and if they had any feedback. He never forced himself on them, but made it very clear that they could earn some extra points for certain favors. Apparently it was a pretty well-known fact around the school, but no one ever caught him red-handed and no charges were ever brought up. Until the year after me, where one girl did press charges, and suddenly literally dozens of girls and women from the past 20 years spoke up. He was fired. And we had a teacher in his early 40s who went through a divorce. He was a cool guy, but took it quite heavy. This happened in my first year. During my third year, there was a rumor that he was dating the very attractive new English teacher, 23 years old. Turned out he was. He got mad credits from all the students. I put the donut in the VCR. My buddies and I had this game where we'd put stuff in the VCR after lunch for shits and giggles. I put a donut in there one day. Next day, keep in mind this was 2008, and nobody used VHS anyways, the instructor decided to play a tape for us. She couldn't figure out why the tape wouldn't go in. When she decided to check the VCR, she found the donut. I was immediately snitched on and called to the disciplinary admin's office. I denied it up and down. Turns out he was going to be gone for 6 months on medical leave and decided to deal with it when he got back. Over those 6 months, chaos ensued. It got to the point where staff members were battling against each other via email on whether or not I actually did it. My dad worked at the school, so he kept me up to date on everything. And half the students couldn't decide either. The day the administrator got back from leave was on the other side of the state at a track meet. He went into every classroom looking for me and pulled students out of class trying to find the truth. The whole thing got a bit out of hand. The next Monday at 7:46 a.m., I was called to his office as soon as I stepped foot on school property. In his office were 2 police officers and my dad sitting there with security camera footage of me walking into the class with a donut. Needless to say, I confessed. It's been 10 years and staff and students still know about it in detail.